if you're going to move up with one of those teams to take a quarterback, whether it's Jayden Daniels or maybe the league's not as high on Caleb Williams or Drake Maye as they once were, they're still going very high, and it's going to cost a lot for the Vikings to be able to move up.
After Sunday's defeat to the Packers, the Viking season is essentially done. There's a very slim chance at the playoffs, but fans have already started looking towards the future and what's next at the quarterback position. We already talked about Kirk Cousins earlier this week. Let's look at the draft. The Vikings currently, according to Tankathon, have the 12th overall pick in the draft. And if they're going to get a quarterback, they might need to jump up higher, with Caleb Williams and Drake Maye already going probably top 2, and then Jayden Daniels from LSU vaulting himself up into that conversation as well earlier this year. And then we saw Monday night, Michael Penix had himself a heck of a night in the college football semifinal. How high will the Vikings have to trade up, if at all, to get a quarterback in the first round?
Yeah, it really depends on what the league thinks about, I think, 3 guys. One is Michael Penix because, well, he has an absolute cannon of an arm. He is a little on the older side. He'll turn 24 at the start of next season, and he does have an injury history that might concern some teams. Although, if arm talent wins over everything, Michael Penix certainly showed it on Monday night that he could throw the football just about anywhere, and I think that would be a pretty nice match with what Kevin O'Connell wants to do from his downfield passing game. But Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, who beat Alabama, played a very good game, has led an offense that has a lot of moving parts there. His leadership, his character, he's got a good arm. He's also a good athlete as well. We saw him take off for a big first down in that game, so he's got some speed to work with. But he's not the biggest guy. He doesn't have a cannon in the same way that Michael Penix does, and a lot of their offense is set up for underneath stuff and yards after catch. So could he operate downfield consistently is a question for him. And then Bo Nix, until this year was not considered, I don't think, a super high prospect, but had an amazing year with a really good team, threw to a lot of open receivers. He is a big guy with a big arm and is a very good athlete. So there's the ups and downs of all the prospects that aren't those top 3, that if the Vikings do not like what they see with any of those guys or feel they're too risky, then you're talking about the draft capital discussion. And there was a report already, and maybe this comes from the Chicago side of things, that the price to move up to get Chicago's pick is going to be super, super high. That's no surprise because Caleb Williams could go number 1. But look at the teams that are projected to be in that top 5. You can make a case for all of them for drafting a quarterback. Maybe Arizona will stick with Kyler Murray instead of taking a QB, but at least 3 of the top 5 picks could be a very similar situation to last year. The difference just being that there's other quarterbacks that are considered mid-first round type of prospects rather than just the guys at the top. But if you're going to move up with one of those teams to take a quarterback, whether it's Jayden Daniels or maybe the league's not as high on Caleb Williams or Drake Maye as they once were, they're still going very high, and it's going to cost a lot for the Vikings to be able to move up at least the next year's first-round draft pick, I would assume, but possibly even more than that considering the caliber of prospect and the desperation from a lot of teams. So they have a lot of work to do before they get to the draft.
You mentioned that high asking price from Chicago reportedly. Is that out of the question, do you think, for Vikings fans to even think about the Vikings moving up to number 1 overall?
I know that the Vikings have traded within the division on draft day before, but that was this is different. When you're talking about a quarterback, this is different. It's not trading up for a wide receiver or trading down to take a safety or something like that. This is you're not going to, if you're Chicago, give the Minnesota Vikings Caleb Williams or Drake Maye at number 1 overall, or Jayden Daniels. I guess any of those 3 could go number 1, but Caleb Williams is by far the favorite. That would be insane to give a franchise quarterback to another team. But Chicago does have the most fascinating decision here because Justin Fields has shown a lot this year and seems to have the support of a lot of people in the locker room to continue to be the quarterback. Also, there's a wide receiver who's the best prospect at wide receiver since Julio Jones. Is it worth taking him and Marvin Harrison Jr. and pairing him with DJ Moore? There's a lot of decisions here to be made and a lot of things that will impact the future. But if you're the Vikings and you want to trade up for one of those guys, you have to identify who's going to trade with you and how far the quarterback is going to fall. Could it be the Chargers are up there? They have a quarterback. Could it be Arizona with Kyler Murray sticking with him and taking a couple of first-round draft picks? Because the Vikings losing to the Packers, well, it may have been really crushing for everyone who was in the stadium rooting for the Vikings that night. It did move them up into a position, as long as miracles don't happen and they get in the playoffs, where they can have a valuable pick to offer to those teams at the top if they want to move up.
That's been another Purple Insider Extra for Bring Me the Sports. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Purple Insider podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Talk to you next time.